The store should have been empty by the time the neon open sign flickered off for the night, but the silence inside the small roadside convenience store felt heavier than usual, thick with the kind of quiet that makes every breath sound too loud. Emily adjusted her hoodie and glanced at the clock above the cigarette counter. 1 p.m., 3 minutes past closing. She had already locked the front door, counted the till twice, and wiped down the counter like her manager had drilled into her. Yet she hesitated to turn off the lights. Nights like this always made her nervous. The highway outside was dark, stretching endlessly in both directions, and the nearest town was 10 miles away. She was 19, barely a year into her first job. And this paycheck was the only thing keeping her mom and little brother afloat after her dad left. She told herself she'd be fine. She always was. She didn't know that tonight would be different. Earlier that evening, a group of bikers had rolled in just before closing, their engines rumbling like distant thunder as they parked along the side of the building. At first, Emily's stomach had tightened. You hear stories, everyone does, and alone behind the counter. She'd wondered if she should call her manager. But they'd surprised her. They were polite, quiet. They bought coffee, snacks, and sat at the back near the coolers, talking low among themselves. One of them, a big guy with a salt and pepper beard, had even told her not to rush on their account. "We'll be out before you lock up," he'd said with a calm smile. She believed him. So when she turned the sign off and locked the door, she assumed they had already slipped out the side entrance like regulars sometimes did. She didn't think to check. Emily was just about to grab her bag from under the counter when loud laughter echoed from outside. Tires crunched on gravel. Shadows moved across the front windows. Her shoulders stiffened as 3 young men stumbled into view, clearly drunk, their voices slurred and careless. She froze as one of them yanked on the locked door. "Hey, it's open," he shouted, rattling the handle. Emily swallowed hard and stepped forward, forcing her voice steady. "Sorry," she called through the glass. "We're closed." That should have been the end of it. But the men exchanged looks, smirks spreading across their faces like they'd just been handed a new form of entertainment. "Come on," another one sneered, pressing his face close to the window. "We just need a few things." Emily shook her head. "I can't. Registers are closed." She had said those words 100 times before. Usually people just left. These men didn't. One kicked the door. Another laughed. "What are you gonna do, little girl?" he said loudly. Her heart pounded. She thought about the security camera above the counter and hoped it was enough. She reached for her phone, but before she could dial, the door shuddered again, and this time, the lock gave way with a sharp crack. The door swung open. Cold air rushed in. Emily stepped back, fear crawling up her spine as the 3 men staggered inside, the smell of alcohol heavy on their breath. "You broke the lock," she said, her voice trembling despite her effort. "You need to leave." "I'm calling the police." That only made them laugh harder. One of them leaned against the counter, blocking her path. "Relax," he said. "We're just having some fun." Another circled around, eyes roaming in a way that made her skin crawl. Emily's hands shook as she clutched her phone, but the third man slapped it out of her grip, sending it skidding across the floor. "Now that's just rude," he said mockingly. Emily's chest tightened. She felt small, trapped. Her
mind raced through worst-case scenarios.
She didn't want to imagine. She thought of her mom waiting at home, assuming she'd be back by now. She thought of how helpless she felt. And through it all, she had no idea she wasn't alone. From the back of the store, behind the rows of coolers and shelves stacked with chips, a low voice cut through the laughter. "You boys should leave." The sound was calm, controlled, but carried weight. The 3 men spun around, startled. Out of the shadows stepped one biker. Then another, 6 of them in total. Leather jackets, heavy boots, faces hardened by years on the road. The laughter died instantly. Emily's eyes widened in disbelief. They hadn't left. They had been there the whole time. The drunk men scoffed, trying to hide their sudden unease. "Mind your business," one of them said. The biker with the beard took a slow step forward. "This is our business now," he replied. Another biker reached down and gently picked up Emily's phone, handing it back to her without taking his eyes off the men. "You okay, kid?" he asked softly. She nodded, tears burning behind her eyes. For the first time since the door broke, She felt like she could breathe. The leader of the three thugs puffed out his chest. "You guys think you're tough or something?" he slurred. The bikers didn't answer right away. They didn't need to. Their silence was louder than any threat. One of them glanced at the broken door. Another looked at the security camera. Breaking and entering, one biker muttered, "Harassment, assault." He cracked his knuckles slowly. That's a bad night. Suddenly, the men weren't laughing anymore. One tried to back toward the door. The biker blocked him with a single step. "You're not going anywhere until the police get here," the bearded man said. "Or until you apologize." The store was so quiet, Emily could hear her own heartbeat. The men exchanged panicked looks. They hadn't expected this. They thought she was alone. They thought no one would stand up for her. One of them stammered an apology, barely audible. Another cursed under his breath. The third just stared at the bikers, fear finally sinking in. Emily clutched her phone, fingers hovering over the call button. The biker nodded to her. "Go." "Ahead," he said. "Call." As she dialed, her hands steadied. She felt something she hadn't felt all night. Power. And as the sirens wailed faintly in the distance, the biker stood like a wall, between her and the men who thought they could get away with anything. They were wrong. If you're enjoying stories where justice arrives when it's least expected, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You won't want to miss what happens next.